Hey everyone, this is Phil Prentice with Prentice Custom Cues, and today I thought I would show a quick video on how I go about modeling a cue in Fusion 360. I've gotten a lot of Facebook messages and DMs from people asking me how to do it, and I figured that the best way would be just to put out a quick video to show you. So let's get started. First and foremost, you have to have Fusion 360 installed. You can get it from Autodesk's website. I highly recommend signing up at a junior college just for a student ID. And a little tip is you can get a education license, and that education license is free for an entire year. And the only requirement is you just have to be enrolled in a college. Or if you have a student that's enrolled in high school, or I even think it works for elementary schools, you can use their student ID from their school, and you can also get an education license that way. Okay, so let's get started. If you see my window here, I've got just a blank canvas. A new project is untitled, and I'm going to start from here. So I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on my top plane. I'm going to click this little box here, and my sketch palette pops up, and I have a blank canvas. There's a couple different ways you can go about, creating your base cross section for your cue. If you know all of your dimensions for your cue, like what your butt diameter is, your A joint, and your joint, along with the widths of the rings that you want, you can just start at one end and enter your vertical links this way as you work along in the X direction this way. But sometimes that's a little cumbersome, especially if you have ring widths that change, on different builds. So I think the best way is to calculate the tapers per inch and then the taper angle for your cue. And then you can just draw directly on here with that taper angle already included. So for mine, I like to have my butt is 1.25, my A joint is 1.062, and my final joint size is 0.840. So this is what most people call a compound taper. So my taper from the butt to my A joint is a little bit different than from my A joint to the joint. And so to calculate that, it's actually pretty simple. The tapers per inch is just the diameter, your large diameter minus your small diameter divided by the length. And if you want to get the taper angle, we need a little bit of trig, and it's basically just take the arctan of whatever your tapers per inch is divided by 2. So for my example, let me pull up my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to calculate what my taper angle is for my butt to my A joint. And like I said, my butt is 1.25, my A joint is 1.062. That gives me 0.188, and the length of my handle plus my butt sleeve is 16.75. So I'm going to divide this by 16.75 inches, and my tapers per inch is actually 0.01122. I want to determine what the angle is, what the taper angle is in degrees. So I'm going to take this value and I'm going to divide that by 2. And then I'm going to take the arctan of that, which is this tan to the -1 exponent. And so my taper angle in degrees is 0.32153. So let me move this off window real quick. And I'm going to start with the create line. And I'm just going to start right in the origin here. I'm going to place my first point. And if I drag my mouse out to the right, you'll see these 2 boxes pop up. If you hit tab, you can lock in one of them. So I just put tab and you can see the degrees is highlighted. So I want to put 0.32153. I hit tab again. So it locks my degrees. You can see my degrees is locked with that little lock sign. And now what my length is I said it's 16.75. Press enter. And now I have actually that is the wrong direction, so it's going up. As you can tell, the taper is going up, and I don't want that to happen. I actually want it to go down. So let me delete this and try this again. Line, click here. My angle 0.32153. You can see if you go up or down, that changes the way your taper is. So originally I had it going up, so I want to actually move my mouse down, and it's going down. And now I can put in 16.75, enter, and you'll see that it's basically 0.3 degrees. And this is the length. And what I like to do is I don't really need this reference line anymore, so I click it and I delete it. And I don't really want to see the dimensions of this length right now, so I can click this. Okay, so now we have a line that's 16.75 inches that's tapering down at 0.32153 degrees, which is the taper of my butt to A joint. Now I know my A joint, or I know my butt cap is 1.25. So I can create another line and start here, and I can lock my degrees into 90. And I want to say it's 1.25 divided by 2. So this gives me half of my butt cap diameter. Next, I want to create just a horizontal line that starts at my butt cap. Again, I want to lock my degrees to 0. And my length, I'm going to do 29 inches because my Q is 29 inches. I'm going to take this center line and I'm going to mark it in the sketch palette as a center line. Okay, now from here I can just drag from this point, make sure again that this degrees is 90, and I'm just going to snap it to this center line here. So if we look at what we have here, this is basically a cross section or a side profile of what the butt to the A joint would look like. Okay, so now similarly, like how we calculated the taper angle for this guy, we want to do the same thing for my A joint to my joint. So let me pull back my calculator, clear things out. And so my large diameter, I'm going to start with my A joint, which is 1.062 minus 0.840. Okay, I'm going to divide by, now my forearm length is 12 and a quarter. So I'm going to divide by 12.25, which gives me tapers per inch of 0.0181. I want to divide this by 2. So I'm going to divide this by 2. And I'm going to take the arc tangent. And this is giving me a degree of 0.51915. Okay, so now I want to create another line, and I want to start at this point here. And if I move my mouse out, you can see it wants to follow the previous 0.3 degrees that we specified. But if we tab over, and I can put this to 0.519515, and then lock that in, make sure I'm going downwards, and my length is 12.25. Again, this reference line here I don't need. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to make sure my show dimensions is off. And now let's close out this joint. So I'm going to come from here. Again, I want to make sure that my angle is 90. And I'm going to snap it here. And just to verify, if we click this guy here, we can see the length is 0.420, which is half of 840. And if we do here, it is 0.531, which is half of 1.062. And here is 0.625, which is half of 1.25. Okay. Let's see. We can see here that this isn't exactly closed off, because if I highlight here, I get this profile that pops out, the shaded one. But over here, I'm not seeing it, so we might not have closed this off correctly. And you can see that it's not closed off right. And let's just double check this length is 29. And this length here is 1675, and this is 12.25. That should be 29. So we're okay there. So we must not have let's just extend this guy just another 2 inches or 0.2 inches. And now let's try. Again, 90 degrees, and I want to snap it to here. There we go. Now let's trim off this rest with the T. You can either go to modify trim or hit the T command and trim it off. Okay, now if we hover, we can see we have this shaded profile here and shaded profile there. Okay, let's turn off the dimensions. And I'm going to turn off the constraints too because I don't want to see any of those. So to get the full queue, we're going to just select all of these lines, and you can hold down the shift key and it will append. And I want to mirror these based on this center line here. Okay. So here we can see we kind of have the full queue where it's both, you know, tapering up here and then tapering down here. Next, I want to go ahead and I want to add in my butt cap and my joint cap. So I like my butt cap to be about an inch. So I'm going to just come here, select these two, and I'm going to Control C, Control V, and I'm just going to drag this over 1 inch. Oops, this should be 1 inch. This should be 0. Let's undo that. That would mess that one up. Control C, V. Okay. So now I got my butt cap. And same thing. I'm going to take here, and I like a 1 inch joint. Move this -1 inch. And because this line is smaller than the diameter is right here, you'll notice that it doesn't extend. So I can fix that by going to Modify, Extend. Just click that and it extends it up, and I'll do the same on the bottom. Okay, so now I got my joint, my forearm, I got my joint here, my forearm, and my handle. And let's put something in for the butt sleeve. So I like my entire butt cap and my sleeve to be 5 inches. So we got an inch here. So again, I can take this and I can move that 4 inches. And now I have my butt sleeve, my butt cap, my handle, and my forearm, and my joint. And so this is your basic queue without any rings. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention is we need to do the opposite when we copy from the large end moving to the right, because it will actually extend over the profile. As you can see here, if we zoom in, this extends up. So we can again go to Modify, Trim. We can trim this off here. We'll do the same in the bottom. And we can do the same for this guy. Okay. So now I want to create some basic rings, and I just want my rings to be 0.15 inches in width. So I can come here, copy these guys, Control CV, and just go 1.5. Again, I'll have to trim this down because it's extending over. And now I can go backwards this way. Control CV, go this way, 1.5. And in this one, I'll actually have to extend those lines. So modify, extend, extend up, extend down. Okay, so I got these rings here. Do the same thing for this ring. Control CV. I want to go 0.15. I need to extend these up. And my last one, 0.15. And extend up, extend down. Okay. So now we have our basic structure of our queue. And I'd like to go ahead and create breaks where these rings are, and then I'll copy those rings to a completely different sketch. So with the trim tool, we can take out these middle sections, and so we have individual components. So something like this. Okay, so now we can finish sketch, and I like to name this, oops, cross section. Okay, now I want to select these edges here. Okay, I want to hit Control C. I want to create a new sketch, and then I'm just going to hit Control V to paste it. Leave everything in place. Hit OK. And now I want to turn off this first cross-section sketch. And as you can see here, now I have my rings, but now I want to close off these rings. So I can just hit the create line and just click from this point to this point, this point to this point, and oops. Okay, so now I got my rings all closed off. Finish sketch. I can rename this one to rings. Okay. I'm going to turn back on my cross section, and I'm going to turn off the rings for now. Okay, so now I like to kind of work from either the joint backwards or the butt cap forwards. It's up to you, your choice. I'm going to start with the butt cap. And the reason why we built it with this center line is it's much easier to use the revolve tool. So we work with the a half of the cube. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to select just this. You can either select this section here or this section here. It doesn't matter. I like to start with the top, and I'm going to hit this revolve button. Sometimes it's easier to change this into isometric mode so you can see what you're doing. But here it automatically determined what my centerline axis was, so I didn't have to do anything there. But sometimes it doesn't. You'll have to click your axis and then click your centerline. One thing is I always like to make new components versus new bodies. So I'm going to hit a new component, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see here, we now have our butt cap. And let's rename it to cap. Turn back on our cross section. Let's turn off our butt cap for now. Okay, now let's do the butt sleeve. You can click here, you can hit revolve. It automatically picked our center line, new component. Okay. Butt sleeve. Same thing. New component. Oops. That is a handle, not a forearm. Handle. Next is the forearm, revolve, new component, okay. Forearm, okay, and last we have the joint collar. You see this one, it did not select it. It's a good example. So I can go ahead and now select my axis and then select this guy here, and it's now new component. And then we have joint collar. Okay, so now if we turn off our cross section and we go back to our front view or our top view, we can see we kind of have a cube, but we're missing these ring section. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that. So I'd like to turn off all of these guys and hit rings. And from here, I was missing this center line, so I'm going to actually hit this center line, Control C. I'm going to edit this sketch of rings, Control V. So now my center line is pasted in. I'm going to turn cross section off, and I'm going to do the same thing, except now I'm going to select all the rings at once. They're all selected. Revolve. That looks good. And I'm going to do new component. Okay. Let's just name these rings. And let's turn everything on in the 3D space. And now we have a 3D model of our cue. Now we can start changing the appearance of the cue. Again, I like starting from the butt cap. Right click, go to appearance. By default, it comes with a whole bunch of material that you can download. If we click on plastic, um, let's see if we can find ABS, acetal, so this is like a Delrin. So let's download that. And let's just drag it over. And now we have a Delrin butt cap. All of our rings we want to be, let's say we want our rings to be, let's say green. All of our rings are now green. For our butt sleeve, we do have some wood. Let's say maybe walnut. Our handle, we want to put a leather wrap on this. Fabric, leather, leather matte black. Or we can, to make it a little, let's do leather red. Okay, and our forearm, let's just do, go back to a wood. Let's pick maybe like a bamboo. Something light. Okay, for our joint collar, let's do I want to do like a black phenolic. You can go ahead and add that material in or search for the download. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just use a glossy paint, like black. Or we can do white if the black doesn't look right. And maybe we want it to match our, there we go. So here is the completed model. And if we go over to the rendering phase, or rendering tool, you can see the leather kind of and the woods kind of pop a little bit better. But yeah, here's our completed cue. One other thing I want to point out is you can actually change the physical material for certain components. So for example, if I click this here and I go to modify and I hit physical material, and I hit wood, and so I want this to be, let's just pick cherry, and I want to duplicate this, and I want to edit this, change it to, oops, I'll get back through physical material. Let's say I want to do bird's eye. So I can type bird's eye there. You can actually look up the density values for bird's eye if you want to. I'm just going to change this here, hit apply, and then now my bird's eye I'm going to put here. As soon as I close back down this, it's going to put back my physical appearance back on there. So if I hit close, it'll go back here. But the cool thing about assigning the physical materials to this is now if I want to render a drawing from my design, I have to save it. So let's just call it sample Q. As you can see, I've only changed for the forearm. The default physical material for everything is steel. But you can see for the forearm, I changed to bird's eye. So it's going to go ahead and put what the material is here. So I can come back to the sample queue and I can select the butt cap here and do physical material and put a plastic and put acetal, the Delrin, and now I can assign this here. And let's just say for the rings I'm going to put laminate red. I can assign all the rings to laminate red. If I close it, they will go back to green. Or not. I should be able to change the physical appearance of this back to green though. Actually, I want to select all of them. Remove. Okay. So now if I come back to the untitled, let's just save this as sample Q. Let's save this design since we've updated the physical material. Now if we come back here, we can see we got this little warning here that's basically saying that an update to our rendering has changed. So we can hit this button, and as you can see, it updated the material. So now we have acetal resin and our rings are laminate red. But in any case, this gives you an idea of kind of how I go about creating a model in Fusion 360. Sorry this is a little bit long. If you have any questions or problems, please feel free to reach out to me. All right, thanks. Bye.